It was nothing serious. Many couples who are more adventurous end up with unwearable clothes, too. Right now, she had nothing on but the hoodie and felt completely exposed. Clearly, Lin Fan had noticed this, too, which was why he'd gone out to find her clothes. It was such a thoughtful gesture. Having never been in a relationship before, she was immediately warmed by this thoughtfulness. No affection reward popped up from the system, but her affection had clearly increased. Just not enough to meet the reward threshold. So the small gift pack hadn't been issued yet. Lin Fan didn't feel any regret about it. He hadn't done it for the reward anyway. As long as her affection kept increasing, the system reward would definitely come eventually. "Thank you," Wang Mengmeng said, hugging the clothes. This time there was more shyness in her voice than before. "Put them on first." Lin Fan took out his notebook to write. To communicate with her, the bloodline evolution had enhanced him in all aspects. But his throat still hadn't recovered. He still couldn't speak, only make eerie growls, though it was slightly better than before. As long as he got a few more vials of blood essence liquid, regaining the ability to speak would definitely be easy. Wang Mengmeng was used to this way of communicating now. She nodded in response and walked behind. The ability to speak would definitely be easy. Wang Mengmeng was used to this way of communicating now. She nodded in response and walked behind the shelf to try on the clothes. She really was carefree. After just 2 days of being together, she'd gotten used to being around Lin Fan, almost forgetting that he was a zombie, treating him like any normal person. But it wasn't entirely wrong. After all, apart from the zombie traits in his body, Lin Fan was just like a normal person in every other way. In this doomsday where humans preyed on each other, other normal humans might not even be as good as this zombie of his. A naive, cute girl like Wang Mengmeng was lucky to have met him. Otherwise, she would have been eaten down to the bones. It was like fools have fools' luck. Lin Fan smiled to himself, then reached out to organize the other item he'd brought back. It was a domestic smartphone, which he'd picked up from the clothing store earlier. Its original owner was the store's owner, who'd turned into a zombie. But now Lin Fan was its new owner. He'd unlocked it with the zombie owner's fingerprint and changed the password. So Lin Fan, the new owner, had full control over it, but it had no power now, so he could only charge it with the original portable charger. Once the charger died, he'd have to find a new one. It was much more troublesome than before, but it would work for now. He entered the reset password to unlock it, and Lin Fan started operating it. The convenience store fell silent. Wang Mengmeng got dressed quickly, but even though she was fully dressed, and Lin Fan started operating it, the convenience store fell silent. Wang Mengmeng got dressed quickly, but even though she was fully dressed, she was too shy to come out. It wasn't because the clothes were ugly and she was embarrassed to be seen, but because the clothes Lin Fan had brought her made her feel shy. The fitted white women's blouse was normal enough, but the bottom was a short pleated skirt, paired with white thigh-high stockings that reached mid-thigh. This outfit looked like it was begging for trouble. Why had Lin Fan brought her such clothes? What was he planning to do? Memories of the previous day couldn't help but flash through her mind, and her face turned red again instantly. Lin Fan, who was operating the phone, hadn't thought that much. This kind of outfit was everywhere before the doomsday. Not hearing any movement for a while, he put down the phone and tapped the shelf with his hand. Hearing the tapping on the shelf, Wang Mengmeng knew Lin Fan was looking for her. Even though she still felt uncontrollably shy, she still walked out from behind the shelf. She still felt a little scared of this strange zombie, Lin Fan. Lin Fan really hadn't been thinking about anything inappropriate. Most of the women's clothes in the store were like that. He just picked up the right size casually. But when Wang Mengmeng came out, wearing the outfit he'd chosen, it wasn't that the outfit itself was amazing, but that Wang Mengmeng had an incredible figure. Her impressive curves stretched the originally somewhat loose blouse tight against her body, creating a striking outline, making anyone's eyes lock onto her at first glance. He couldn't help but imagine the buttons popping off. The legs under the pleated skirt weren't the skinny type of a young girl, but the fair, rounded, long, and straight legs of a mature woman paired with the translucent white thigh highs. No wonder Wang Mengmeng had wondered what he was up to. When she put on this outfit, he really was tempted now. By the side of her, under Lin Fan's intense gaze, Wang Mengmeng's face turned even redder. She wanted to say something to ease the burning tension that felt like it would melt her. But as soon as she opened her mouth, Lin Fan lifted her up in his arms, wrapping one arm around her waist. "Don't speak. In an hour, this will all be over." Lin Fan couldn't help but sigh. He'd barely lasted an hour, while Wang Mengmeng covered her face, wanting to cry. Lin Fan really had been up to no good. Her guess had been right, but each time they became more intimate, their relationship grew closer. Wang Mengmeng no longer needed Lin Fan to feed her. She went to find food on her own to regain her strength. The convenience store was filled with all kinds of snacks and drinks. It was a paradise for someone who loved snacks like her. She soon immersed herself in the sea of delicious snacks. Lin Fan watched quietly from the side. He could eat these snacks too, but to a zombie's taste buds, eating these snacks was no different from eating something extremely spicy. Not only did they not taste good, they were also very hard to swallow, so they held little appeal for him. But every time he looked at Wang Mengmeng, a living person, he felt an urge to bite her and eat her flesh. It was only suppressed by his human consciousness, thinking about eating meat. Lin Fan touched his stomach and couldn't help but feel a little hungry. Zombies didn't die if they didn't eat, but they still felt hungry. That was why zombies went so crazy chasing living creatures as soon as they encountered them, especially a zombie like Lin Fan, who was intimate with Wang Mengmeng every day. He felt even hungrier. After all, each time it consumes a lot of energy, often billions of units of energy at a time. Energy is conserved if you consume it. You naturally need to replenish it. But the convenience store had nothing to replenish his energy. To replenish, he had to go out and find something. He didn't need to find living humans to eat. Other living creatures could also replenish his energy. To replenish, he had to go out and find something. He didn't need to find living humans to eat. Other living creatures could also replenish his energy, like uninfected chickens and ducks, or uninfected cows and sheep, even various fish in the water. All of them were edible. Compared to the first two, fish were easier to get in the city. There were many fish in various man-made lakes. You could easily fish them out. Coincidentally, when he went out to get clothes earlier, he'd seen a fairly large man-made lake. As long as he found a fishing rod and bait, he could make himself something to eat. Sashimi was still a pretty good dish. He decided to act immediately. This time of day was when fish were most likely to bite. "I'm going out for a bit. Stay in the store. Don't go out. Here, you can play with this if you're bored." Lin Fan picked up the notebook and the phone he'd brought back from the clothing store. He'd originally brought the phone back to use the internet, to learn about doomsday information through it. Unfortunately, the internet was down, with no power and no one to maintain it. There was no signal left. It wasn't just the internet that didn't work. Power and no one to maintain it. There was no signal left. It wasn't just the internet that didn't work. Even emergency calls couldn't be made. But playing offline mobile games or watching downloaded movies was still possible. There were many offline games on this phone, and quite a few downloaded movies. Wang Mengmeng could definitely use it to pass the time, so she wouldn't be bored alone. "You're going out to play." Wang Mengmeng took the phone, but didn't start playing it right away. Instead, she looked at Lin Fan. She didn't want to experience the feelings she'd had when Lin Fan had left earlier again. Deep down she didn't want Lin Fan to go out, but she couldn't force him to stay. So she could only look at Lin Fan and ask, "Don't worry, I'll be right back." Lin Fan wrote quickly again, then patted her little head. Their affection had grown. They were more and more like a couple. "Be careful." Enjoying Lin Fan's gentle pat, she didn't say anything more, only giving a somewhat awkward reminder. "I will," he replied in the notebook. Then Lin Fan put on his clothes, opened the roller shutter, and went out. Wang Mengmeng watched him leave. When the roller shutter closed again, she sat down on the floor, hugging her knees, her chin resting on her knees, her eyes staring blankly at the closed roller shutter. Outside, Lin Fan couldn't see what was happening inside the store. He locked the roller shutter to prevent anything from breaking in, then walked towards the nearby fishing tackle shop. This was a commercial street with all kinds of shops, but there were also many wandering zombies, all with terrifying appearances, gasping like broken bellows, staggering around aimlessly, scarier than any zombie movie. Just looking at them made one's blood run cold. Cars were scattered randomly on the road. Blood and bones were everywhere on the ground. Some cars had crashed into roadside shops, causing fires. Thick smoke filled the air. Black smoke was still rising even now. At a glance, the world was filled with doomsday desolation. It took courage for Wang Mengmeng to come to this convenience store for food. In such an environment, she was timid. But when she was hungry, her courage grew. The sound of Lin Fan opening and closing the door quickly attracted the attention of many zombies. But when they smelled that he was one of their own, they soon wandered away again. Lin Fan smiled slightly at this. In the current zombie version, being a zombie was like a get-out-of-jail-free card. He arrived at the fishing tackle shop smoothly. The shop owner had also turned into a zombie but didn't react to his arrival. So Lin Fan shopped for free in front of the owner, picking the most expensive bait. And the same for fishing rods. Today, he was determined to catch fish. A fisherman who catches nothing will never go empty-handed. There were also zombies wandering around the man-made lake, but they didn't bother Lin Fan. He took his fishing gear and sat down in a shady spot, then opened the chum and started chumming the water. To catch many fish, you must use a lot of chum, this much he knew. Anyway, it was free. No need to feel bad about wasting it. Plop plop sounds kept ringing out. Lumps of chum fell into the lake like raindrops, contributing significantly to the lake's water level, enough to deserve a bonus for it. After pouring dozens of pounds of chum, Lin Fan mixed the bait with water and prepared his fishing tackle. Everything was ready. Now it was time to fish. The hook with bait sailed in a perfect arc. Lin Fan sat on a small stool by the shore. In his mind, with so much chum thrown in, he was sure to catch a bucket full of fish. Even a simple chicken feeder would be enough to hold them. After all, the fish in the man-made lake were not that smart. But in reality, the float didn't move for 5 minutes. 10 minutes passed, and the float still didn't move. He reeled it in, rebaited, and cast again. 5 minutes later, the float was still motionless. 10 minutes passed, and there was still no movement. He reeled in and cast again. He kept trying, but by the time the sun began to set, the float was still as ever. The fish basket he'd put in the water earlier was just as empty as the float. Damn it! Lin Fan finally lost his cool. He stood up in a rage, snapped the fishing rod in one hand, and threw it into the man-made lake. Fish, my ass! I have to drain the water. These ungrateful brats won't get away with this. Lin Fan stormed off with the broken fishing rod, planning to find a water pump to drain the lake. Lever and egg drop soup. If you don't come out, then I'll have to eat bullets. A fisherman can put up with anything, but not ungrateful fish. I won't spoil them. Not only that, I'll teach them a hard lesson until they know their place. Just as he stormed off in a huff, in a building not far from the man-made lake, a figure with an open mouth finally came to her senses and withdrew her gaze from the window. She walked up to a man. Brother, I just saw a zombie who was fishing. And when he couldn't catch any, he even yelled and screamed. She was a young girl wearing a high school uniform with double ponytails and big bright, sparkling eyes. She walked up to her brother and excitedly told him what she'd seen, as if she'd witnessed something incredible, and it was indeed incredible. After all, a zombie that fishes and throws a tantrum when it can't catch any was unheard of. Not even in movies. No movie would dare to film something like that, because it would definitely flop at the box office. What nonsense are you talking about? What kind of zombie knows how to fish? Her brother heard this and shook his head helplessly. Clearly, he didn't believe her story. And he had good reason not to. It wasn't just illogical, but also because he himself had gone out many times to find food, and had even killed zombies with his own hands. He knew zombies better than anyone. They were mindless monsters, driven only by the instinct to find food. Communication was impossible with them. Even if there were exceptions, they still revolved around that one instinct. The only difference was their strength, not to mention fishing. They wouldn't even glance at a bottle of water and throwing a tantrum when they can't catch fish. How could that be possible? It's true. I'm not lying. If you don't believe me, come see for yourself. The sister got anxious. When she saw he didn't believe her, she was being serious. She wasn't making it up. She'd really seen it. Her brother still shook his head. Come look. The sister pulled her brother's hand, determined to prove she wasn't lying. Her brother couldn't resist her insistence, so he let her pull him over to the window to look for the so-called zombie. Fishing in such a harsh environment, his sister could still remain innocent and lively. It was clear he was a total sister con. Over to the window to look for the so-called zombie. Fishing in such a harsh environment, his sister could still remain innocent and lively. It was clear he was a total sister con. Otherwise, he wouldn't have protected her so well. Even though he thought his sister was talking nonsense, he still looked out the window. Where is it? They were on the 10th floor, with a clear view of the entire man-made lake. There were indeed many zombies wandering by the lake, but there was no sign of a zombie that could fish. That's weird. He was here just now. And what about the fishing rod he broke? The sister saw the same thing as her brother, but she'd clearly seen him earlier. And the broken fishing rod he'd thrown into the water. It should still be floating on the lake's surface, but now it was all gone. Okay, if you're bored, go play games on your phone. Running around will make you hungry faster. Food is hard to come by now. We need to save as much as we can, her brother said helplessly. The sister pouted, wanting to say more, but she thought about how hard her brother worked to find food, and finally obeyed, picking up her phone to play. Offline games were boring, but there weren't many forms of entertainment left now. She was still lucky to have a brother who doted on her and protected her. She didn't have to worry about food or loneliness alone, and she even had a phone to play with. When it ran out of power, her brother would bring back a portable charger. This quality of life was definitely not as good as before the doomsday. But for the present, it was already pretty good, even like paradise. She was naive by nature, but that didn't mean she was stupid. She still knew right from wrong. Her brother patted her head, his face filled with deep affection. Their parents had lost contact completely, and the chances of them being alive were slim as her older brother. He naturally had to protect her well. Now seeing how sensible his sister was, he felt a great sense of relief. On the other side, Lin Fan held the broken fishing rod, his face full of apology. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have blamed you. It's not your fault that I couldn't catch any fish," he said apologetically to the rod. He had stormed off in a rage earlier, but then thought it was silly to blame the rod for his bad fishing. So he fished the rod out of the lake again and apologized to it. The sister couldn't see the rod because he had already retrieved it. By now he had left the man-made lake. The fishing rod didn't respond, just silently letting this empty-handed fisherman monologue. Not talking? Then I'll take that as you forgiving me. You're such a generous little thing." Lin Fan laughed, the apology on his face fading. Then he tossed the rod into a trash can without a second thought. And that was the end of that. But the fish in the lake being so ungrateful was something he wouldn't let go of. Water pumps were hard to find, but getting some fishing nets would be easy. We'll see if those fish still dare to be ungrateful. The fishing tackle shop had nets. He could just shop for free again. No more daydreaming, time to get to work. He quickly returned to the street, planning to go back to the tackle shop for nets. But when he glanced at the convenience store's roller shutter by chance, his expression changed drastically, and he forgot all about getting the nets. But when he glanced at the convenience store's roller shutter by chance, his expression changed drastically, and he forgot all about getting the nets, because the lock on the roller shutter had been violently pried open. Scream all you want, no one will come to save you. If you attract zombies, you'll only die a more miserable death. They'll tear you apart and eat you bit by bit, alive, inside the convenience store. Besides Wang Meng Meng, who was waiting for Lin Fan's return, there were 3 young men with lewd expressions. They wore obscene smiles, cornering Wang Meng Meng against the end of a shelf. "Don't come any closer. My husband will be back soon. He won't let you get away with this." Wang Meng Meng held a fruit knife against the 3 men, trying her best to look fierce. But her innocent, cute appearance failed to make the 3 men wary. Instead, it made them even more excited. They stepped closer and closer. As for her threats, the 3 men didn't take them seriously at all. In the doomsday, anyone who dared to wander outside was either someone like Wang Meng Meng, starving, forced to come out of hiding, or genuine tough guys. Clearly, these 3 were the latter. 2 of them held large machetes in their hands, still stained with blood. Obviously, these weren't just for show. They had actually used them to kill zombies or other survivors. But the man in the middle was even more fearsome, because what he held was the ultimate truth. A handmade shotgun. A handmade shotgun is a bit crude, but a gun is still a gun. A real deadly weapon. Faced with such a powerful weapon, they won't fear Wang Meng Meng's threats. When her husband comes back, he won't let them off. It's better if her husband doesn't come back. If he does, they won't mind having some fresh meat. Ignoring this collapsed era is the most normal thing ever. So in the face of fierce threats, they just laugh loudly. Your husband won't let you off. Believe it or not, when he comes back, we'll ravage her fiercely right in front of him. And he won't even dare to fart. A man holding a shotgun said with a menacing grin. A perverted glint flashed in his eyes. The two with knives said nothing, but from their eager expressions, you could tell what they were thinking. It was obvious now. They were also very restless. Faced with this situation, Wang Mengmeng's face turned deathly pale. She could no longer maintain her forced ferocity, but just as she fell into complete despair, preparing to kill herself with the fruit knife in her hand, the closed roller shutter door made a clattering sound, and someone pushed it open from the outside. Then a figure walked in, bathed in light. The light made the view a bit hazy, but the desperate Wang Mengmeng still recognized him at a glance. It was Lin Fan, the strange zombie who liked to have kids. The husband she had used to threaten them. Her husband had really come back. Just as she was about to commit suicide in despair, he walked into her sight, bathed in light. "Hubby." Wang Mengmeng blurted out instinctively. Then she pushed hard against the three surrounding her and ran as fast as she could in her life to Lin Fan's side. "You're finally back." She ran to Lin Fan's side, saying excitedly with a beaming face. Lin Fan nodded slightly. He gently reached out and patted her head to comfort her, then turned to look at the three intruders. His expression turned icy cold in the process. He didn't say anything, but in his heart, he had already sentenced the three to death. "This is your husband?" Came back at just the right time, like a hero returning. "But that's perfect, I just love." Showing off in front of heroes, the three looked at Lin Fan and snickered when they said showing off. At the end they emphasized the tone, the meaning behind it was self-evident. It was their perverted hobby. As for Lin Fan's icy cold expression, they just laughed it off. "We hold the truth in our hands. Dare Lin Fan even move a finger? Run. They have a gun. It can even shoot through walls." Wang Mengmeng came to her senses and quickly warned Lin Fan. She was worried that this strange zombie, Lin Fan, wouldn't understand the gun's power, so she also described its power. After speaking, she grabbed Lin Fan's hand, wanting to turn around and run out the door with him, but she couldn't move him at all, because Lin Fan had no intention of running away. Wang Mengmeng grew anxious when she saw this. They were at the door now, so they still had a chance to escape. The other side had big machetes and a gun. If they stayed, they'd only die. Lin Fan still didn't move. Instead, the other side spoke up. "Your husband is smart. He knows he can't run. After all, can you run faster than a bullet?" "Ha ha." The two with knives laughed triumphantly. "Kids, send your woman over to us. Then do as we say obediently. If we brothers are happy, it's not impossible for us to let you off." The man with the gun continued smiling. He wanted Lin Fan to send his own woman right to his face. With truth in his hands, he didn't think Lin Fan would dare to defy his order. Wang Mengmeng's face turned pale again. She stared fixedly at Lin Fan, and worry couldn't help but well up in her heart. She worried if Lin Fan would really send her to the other side. Thankfully, although Lin Fan didn't run, he didn't react at all when he heard their words. He still stood there, staring indifferently at the three as they talked to themselves. He looked at them like they were clowns performing. The three had been very proud at first, but as time passed, Lin Fan still stood in place, staring at them with the same watching clowns look. Gradually, they couldn't stay proud anymore. "You ungrateful bastard. Then go to hell." The man with the gun was the most hot-tempered. He lifted the shotgun in his hand, ready to fire. He had deliberately installed a silencer on it, so the gunshot wouldn't be too loud. It wouldn't attract the zombies outside the street. But just as he was about to pull the trigger, his body suddenly trembled uncontrollably. Then his menacing expression froze on his face, and he couldn't even pull the trigger. His body suddenly trembled uncontrollably. Then his menacing expression froze on his face, and he couldn't even pull the trigger anymore. With great difficulty, he lowered his head. He didn't know when Lin Fan had appeared right in front of him. Lin Fan's speed was so bizarre that he couldn't even see it. One of Lin Fan's arms had even stabbed directly into his chest, piercing straight through it. Then, accompanied by a dull thud, the arm pulled out of his chest.